My sister Lily believed deeply in karma, always eager to perform all sorts of good deeds. Not only would she readily spend large sums of money to rescue mice stuck on glue traps, but she'd also meticulously peel off each fly from sticky paper, then comfort them one by one. She even bought tons of mineral water for mercy release. In her desire to save ants crossing the road, she pushed an innocent little girl next to her directly into the path of oncoming traffic, just to force the cars to stop. The girl was run over and died. A series of chain reaction accidents followed, resulting in horrific casualties. The girl's father, Mr. Davies, in his quest for revenge, murdered all 4 members of my family right there on the street. When I opened my eyes again, I was back at the moment, standing by the roadside, waiting for a car. Hua hua, look at the ants moving their homes on the ground. Aren't they adorable? They're all living beings. When you walk, remember to be careful not to step on them, okay? My sister Lily's clear voice, full of vitality, echoed in my ears. I opened my eyes to the dazzling sunlight, facing a bustling stream of cars. Around me, shoppers were waiting for rides. Before I could fully grasp my surroundings, Lily's voice rang out again. Those hateful cars, why are they driving like that? They'll crush these adorable ants. Yes, yes, Lily is right. Those cars deserve to crash. Just look at Dad, you can tell he's so kind. Dad won't drive anymore, our family firmly opposes driving. My parents' voices, Mr. Joe and Mrs. Bai, reached my ears. The little ants want to cross the road. We can't let these cars keep going. No sooner had she spoken than Lily forcefully pushed the little girl next to her into the street. The girl, about 5 or 6 years old, was already small and light. Just as she was about to fall onto the asphalt, I instinctively grabbed the hood of her jacket from behind, pulling her away from the road. Cars whizzed by. This time, the girl wasn't splattered with blood on the spot. I had extinguished the tragedy in its infancy. My body was stiff, I gasped for breath, tightly embracing the child who was sobbing in fear, carefully checking her. But then, Mr. Davies snatched her away. I looked up at him. In my memory, this very man, elegantly wearing glasses, had pulled an axe from his bag and murdered all 4 members of my family, especially Lily, who had caused his daughter's tragic death under the wheels of a car. My sister Lily was a firm believer in karma. She believed that doing many good deeds would lead to happiness and rewards. So, from a young age, she adored and protected all living things. She would readily spend large sums of money to save mice stuck on glue traps and wouldn't even overlook a single fly trapped on flypaper. She bought plecos and golden apple snails for mercy release, and even tons of mineral water for the same purpose. From childhood, these actions drained our family, piling up enormous debts, yet our parents always indulged her, believing everything she said. They even adopted her karma theory and joined her in these absurd acts. On this very day in my previous life, Lily suddenly felt like going to the zoo to see animals that had lost their freedom. Our house was over 10 kilometers from the zoo, but Lily claimed that driving would kill countless insects, plants, and even microorganisms. So, after I turned 10, our family car became nothing more than a display piece. We weren't allowed to drive anywhere. Thus, we laboriously walked those 10+ kilometers. Leaving the zoo, it was clear Lily was exhausted and couldn't walk another step. She found an excuse, saying she didn't want to continue walking because she couldn't bear to see the living beings in the bushes slowly dying from chemicals. She wanted to take a taxi home quickly. Her words, laced with tears, pained my parents, Mr. Joe and Mrs. Bai, who gently comforted her and agreed to call a taxi home. And just as they were calling for a taxi, the absurd incident unfolded again. Simply to save a colony of ants crossing the road, she pushed a little girl into the middle of the street to stop traffic. On this very day in my previous life, she succeeded in stopping the cars, but the price was the little girl's death. Not only that, but it also caused a serious multi-car pileup. When the police questioned her, she simply said, "Ants are living beings too. No ant should be harmed. The dead are dead." Compared to dozens, even hundreds of lives, one human is nothing. I am doing a good deed. The police and all bystanders were stunned by her foolish and callous remarks. My parents stood beside her, showering her with praise and flattery. That was what completely enraged Mr. Davies, who was cradling his daughter's body. He pulled out an axe from his bag and, in a fit of rage, killed my parents, Lily, and me. When I opened my eyes, I had returned to the exact moment the tragedy began. Mr. Davies gently embraced and soothed his daughter. I looked at the briefcase in his hand, the very place where the weapon was hidden in my previous life. Everything had happened too fast. Before anyone could react, I had pulled the child back. The little girl gradually stopped crying. Her father thanked me. "Thank you for saving my daughter. Children can be mischievous sometimes. She almost fell into the road. I need to discipline her." It seemed he hadn't realized that Lily had pushed his daughter, nor did he intend to pursue it. I breathed a sigh of relief, thinking my family might escape this time. I waved my hand, forcing a smile. "It's nothing, just a small matter, as long as the little one is all right." Mr. Davies was about to turn away when Lily couldn't help but yell at me. "Why did you save her? Those lives on the road are all dead now, and it's all your fault. You are the one who stole their lives." My heart, which had just relaxed, immediately tensed up again. The father, who had only walked a few steps, turned back, frowning. His usually gentle face suddenly became intensely grim. His expression gradually mirrored the man from my previous life, the man holding an axe, ready to butcher my entire family. I was trembling with fear, but dared not move. Lily still refused to be silent, continuing to loudly declare, "She saved your daughter, but she caused hundreds of ants crossing the road to die. Those are hundreds of lives too. She's so indifferent. How can I have such a cold-blooded sister?" Mr. Davies angrily turned back to us, asking, "So my daughter didn't accidentally fall, but you pushed her into the middle of the road? You deliberately shoved her into the path of cars." Passers-by began to pay attention to the argument. Hearing Lily's delusional words, they were utterly stunned. "Yes, I pushed her, so what? Using one human life to save hundreds, thousands of ant lives. Isn't that worth it? What good is that human life on this earth anyway? Just wasting air, slaughtering animals and plants." My parents still hadn't come to their senses, standing by, cheering her on. "Our daughter is doing a good deed, you should be thanking her. Your daughter has become the savior of hundreds of lives. How can you not be grateful and instead blame us? This act of accumulating merit is offered to you, yet you don't even appreciate it. You really are ungrateful." Every word they uttered was like a thunderclap, completely enraging Mr. Davies and the crowd around us. Before anyone could retort, I saw his eyes turn bloodshot. His hand reached into his briefcase. Suddenly, all fear within me vanished. I lunged forward like an arrow, delivering a stinging slap across Lily's face. "I've had enough. You people treat human lives like grass, yet you cherish animals like treasures. This level of shamelessness is beyond belief." Pointing directly at her, I screamed, "How can I have a sister like you? Selfish, vain, always wanting the whole world to revolve around you. Do you think you're the sun, and our whole family has to orbit you? Why can't mom and dad ever see what I do? Why do they always indulge you?" Lily clutched her face, looking at me in disbelief, tears welling up in her eyes, appearing utterly pitiful. But my left hand wasn't idle either. I grabbed my mother's hair and forced her to the ground. "I'm also your daughter, born of you, so why are you so biased? You only ever think of my sister, never me. I sacrificed my own happiness to support her. I'm your daughter too. Why have you never looked at me with respect?" My mother, Mrs. Bai, pinned to the ground by me, screamed hysterically. My father, Mr. Joe, rushed over to pull me off. As soon as my right hand was free, I clenched it into a fist and with all my might punched him straight in the nose. He cried out in pain, clutching his nose as he collapsed. "And you, Dad, why did you always give in to Lily from childhood? Anything she wanted, you both handed to her on a silver platter, but I was never truly treated like your daughter." I stood up, hands on my hips, speaking with righteous indignation. "I cannot let you both continue to indulge her in these idiotic deeds. From now on, if she's here, I'm not." The surrounding crowd was astonished by the sudden outburst. They marveled at my unblemished, noble demeanor. Meanwhile, I secretly observed Mr. Davies' reaction. He, too, was startled by my actions. The fierce, red-eyed aggression was gone. He had even dropped his briefcase. My purpose in causing such a scene was to make it clear to him I was innocent. I was not complicit. I was not on their side. I just hoped that if he went berserk later, he wouldn't touch me. Another purpose was simply to unleash all the grievances I had endured for so many years. Sure enough, the bystanders began to whisper and gossip about my family. My sister Lily wept bitterly, tears streaming down her face, falling to the ground, crushing several ants on the road. When she saw this, she immediately started crying for the ants. I'm sorry, I shouldn't cry." "My tears killed you, my friends. I've killed a life. I deserve to die." She yelled and made strange gestures that made everyone around her step back a few paces. Everyone saw her as insane. "I couldn't save your kind, and I killed you too. I'm truly sorry." Her face was filled with remorse and self-blame, completely different from when she had intentionally pushed the little girl into the road moments before. Mr. Davies, who had somewhat calmed down, grew even angrier at this sight, his hand again reaching for his briefcase. But just then, the police arrived after receiving a report, and we were all taken to a nearby station. Mr. Davies, carrying his briefcase and comforting his daughter who had cried herself to exhaustion, no longer had the terrifying, horrified expression from before. Lily, however, was dragged up from the ground by the police, looking like someone wailing at a funeral. Everyone around us vied to recount the events clearly, and the police quickly grasped the situation. They then dispersed the crowd and took all of us to the station. My parents and Lily glared at me with pure hatred. Mr. Davies was the first to step forward and testify, stating that his daughter had almost been pushed into the street by Lily and run over. Then, he looked at me with immense gratitude. It's fortunate that there's still one sensible person in their family, a kind soul who helped me rescue my daughter. Otherwise, by the time I reacted, all I would have seen was my daughter's corpse. I truly thank you, young lady. After speaking, he bowed to me very formally. The little girl also groggily woke up and faintly whispered, "A thank you." "Why did you push that, child?" Lily, sniffing and sobbing, replied, "I just wanted to save hundreds of lives. What did I do wrong? Isn't exchanging one human life for hundreds of others worth it?" Hearing it recounted by others was one thing, hearing it from the perpetrator's own mouth was another entirely, truly shocking the police. "So, you knew pushing someone out there could kill them?" Lily continued to sniffle. "So what if she died?" "I didn't want the child to die, but if I didn't do it, hundreds of those tiny lives would be lost. I'm doing good, accumulating merit." The police, having heard enough, could only remain silent. What kind of logic was this? Mr. Davies' face turned crimson with rage again. "People without compassion, without kindness like you, will never understand the importance of life to this world. Why do you think one human life is worth more than hundreds of other animal lives? Why eat animals? Why keep them captive? Why trample on them?" Lily argued passionately, radiating an aura of righteousness as if she were glowing with benevolence, as if she were the only good person in the entire world. The police remained silent. Mr. Davies, now a little calmer, spoke directly to the police. "Officer, this person has committed a crime, haven't they? I absolutely refuse to reconcile. Please arrest her. Someone like this, if released, will surely harm society." My parents, hearing this, erupted in fury. "Our Lily is doing good deeds. Now, before her good work is even finished, how can it be a crime?" I'd always wondered. My parents had gone to school. Even if their education wasn't extensive, completing high school in their time was rare. How could they be so deluded as to let Lily do such absurd things, not only failing to stop her but even joining in and encouraging her, making everything worse? In my eyes, their so-called karma theory was a blatant scam, just meaningless heresy. Yet no matter how many relatives or friends advised them, they stubbornly clung to their beliefs. No wonder they raised such a shameless child. It turned out they themselves were long-standing shameless creatures. The police officer pointed at me, the only one in this family who still retained her sanity. "Why aren't you committing a crime? This person clearly attempted murder. I can arrest her on charges of attempted murder." With that, he took out handcuffs and cuffed a sobbing Lily. My sister was taken to a detention center, unable to escape criminal charges. My parents went frantic, making constant calls, hiring lawyers, desperately trying to get their youngest daughter out. I watched them with utter sarcasm. They were always like this, always grieving for my sister far more than for me. If Lily so much as scraped her knee, they'd worry as if the world was ending. Yet when I was in a car accident and hospitalized for over a month, they not only didn't visit but called to scold me. "Who told you to drive recklessly and create bad karma? Now you can't cook for your sister." From childhood, I'd always been puzzled. We were clearly both their biological children, raised in the same home. Why did they treat me like a stranger? Strangers at least maintain minimal politeness, but they treated me like a mere housemaid. I knew it was useless for them to look for help now. The family was deep in debt with no money left for bribery. With no other options, they turned to blame me. "Why did you save that little girl? It's all your fault. Your sister just got arrested." I listened, my face a question mark, unable to fathom my mother's reasoning. If I hadn't saved that little girl, she would have been run over and killed. Then my sister would have faced execution. Could they not distinguish between those two outcomes? Attempted murder and successful murder carry vastly different penalties. Did my parents want my sister to trade her life for a few hundred ants? My parents fell silent, clearly not wanting that. After all, Lily was their precious treasure. Earlier, in front of everyone, they had claimed a little girl's life wasn't worth hundreds of ants. Now, they believed their own daughter's life was worth far more than hundreds of ants. Truly, they were two hypocrites. Then, why did you hit your sister? My father angrily pointed his finger and scolded me. I know you never liked your sister, and I know you resent us for not letting you go to university. But your sister was frail, and as her elder sister, you had to stay home and take care of her. Is it just because of that incident that you resent both your sister and us? Don't even mention it. The moment it was brought up, a flood of painful memories washed over me. Lily was terrible at school, but from childhood she was always doted on by our parents. Simply because she claimed books were made from wood that had souls, and studying books meant killing the lives of trees, they stopped her education after elementary school. I, on the other hand, craved knowledge, yearned for the world outside. I excelled academically, always topping my class. With my abilities, I could have easily gotten into a good college. But when the university exam results were announced, they smashed my phone, locked me in my room, feeding me only a bit of vegetables each day, only releasing me after the application period had passed. When I, starved and emaciated, finally stepped out, what I received was not an apology, but an order to make cakes for my sister. At that time, my mind truly was sick. I don't know why I didn't resist. Living with 3 abnormal people for so long, I, too, had lost my sanity. It wasn't until my previous life, when that man killed my entire family and I was reborn, that my mind truly cleared. I snapped back to reality, seeing my father with bloodshot eyes holding a cactus pot preparing to hurl it at me. I grabbed the ashtray from the table, putting all my strength into throwing it back. It hit his head, causing blood to gush. I gave him a cold smile. Oh, Dad, this cactus pot is a life Lily nurtured. You can't just disregard its life out of anger, can you? You really have no kindness at all. Luckily, I stopped you in time and saved that cactus. You should thank me. If Lily gets out of detention and sees her beloved cactus dead, how sad she'll be. My father clutched his continuously bleeding forehead, groaning repeatedly. My mother, too, trembled with rage. How could you hit your father? Before that, you hit me and even slapped Lily. How dare you be so arrogant with your mother? I maintained a worried expression. I'm saving everyone, I mysteriously told them. Mom and Dad, you don't know this, but I saw something inside that man's briefcase. At that, my father fell silent. My mother also moved closer, curious. To maintain the drama, I lowered my voice. It was an axe. While Lily was talking, his hand was already reaching into his bag. If I hadn't done something to provoke him, by now our whole family would have probably been chopped to death by him. If I hadn't done that, would Lily still be alive and at the police station? Of course, my parents didn't believe me. I slapped my thigh firmly. For all these years, have I loved Lily any less? No matter what, I couldn't let my sister be cut down by someone. Their faces gradually blanked, finally beginning to recall how I had slaved for them over the years. Their trust in me returned. My mother took my father to the clinic for bandages. I was left alone in the house. Our current family asset was only this house. My parents were ordinary factory workers, earning less than 10 million VND approx. $400 USD a month. All the money I earned from part-time jobs had been confiscated by them, entirely dedicated to Lily's benevolent endeavors. I began searching everywhere in the house for money. I refused to believe my parents didn't have some hidden savings. I couldn't bear to live in such an abnormal family anymore. Unexpectedly, I found a faded old photograph behind my grandmother's altar photo. It was a picture of my father in his youth with a beautiful woman I'd never seen before. She looked very familiar. Suddenly, a light flickered in my mind. The woman resembled Lily by about 80%, meaning Lily wasn't my biological sister. This bold thought left me gaping. I removed the photo frame. Inside was an old letter. After reading it, I was stunned. It turned out the woman in the photo was my father's first love, his white moonlight. At that time, her husband had passed away, and she herself was ill, desperately clinging to life to give birth to Lily. Meanwhile, my mother was also giving birth to her biological daughter, me, in the same hospital. This letter was from that woman to my father, thanking him for swapping the 2 babies. So, my mother had been raising someone else's child for 20 years. And I asterisk her biological daughter was deemed inferior to the child of my father's white moonlight. No wonder everything was given to Lily. I looked at the ancestral photos of all 4 grandparents in the house. Curious, I opened another one. This time, it was my maternal grandfather's photo. And just as I suspected, another photo fell out. It was my mother with a strange man. He was handsome, certainly much better looking than my father. Next to it was another letter. The letter read like a detailed explanation of my mother's continuous relationship with that man, even admitting to extramarital affairs. My mother married my father for convenience, for his job. The other man, to curry favor with his superior, married his boss's daughter. Circumstances had separated them, but they maintained contact through letters even after marriage. 2 years after I was born, the other man's father-in-law fell from power. He and his wife returned to their hometown, and by chance he met my mother again. Their passion reignited like fire to dry straw. As a result, my mother became pregnant with his child. Afterward, that man and his wife emigrated abroad, while my mother kept the child as their only bond. That child was Lily. That's why she loved and defended Lily with all her heart, even blindly believing in her karma. And I, her biological daughter, was scolded, despised, and utterly ignored. But in the end, that child had been swapped by my father. So she had poured all her love into the wrong person. What a grand drama. Both of them had affairs. They truly were meant to be together. I chuckled wryly. No money found, but entertainment was certainly provided. I hid my father's letter and photo with his white moonlight behind my maternal grandfather's photo frame. As for my mother's letter and photo with her first love, I hid them behind my paternal grandmother's altar photo. After a week of fruitless effort, my parents finally quieted down. That evening, just after I finished washing the dishes, I heard frantic screams coming from my parents' room, accompanied by the sound of things being violently thrown and glass shattering. Perfect, I thought. The show's about to begin. Sure enough, my mother, Mrs. Bai, with disheveled hair and bloodshot eyes, holding the photo and letter, charged straight at my father, Mr. Joe, grabbing the ashtray. She hurled the ashtray directly at my father's head, but perhaps he was truly traumatized by my previous throw, for he swiftly dodged it. The ashtray flew from my mother's hand and vanished somewhere. My mother began to grab my father's shirt, interrogating him. "What is this? You dared to swap my child? You beast! Why did you switch my baby? Tell me where my daughter is now." My father looked at the photo and letter he had meticulously preserved for so many years, now crumpled in my mother's tight grip, and immediately erupted in rage. He swung his hand, delivering a thunderous slap across my mother's face that sent her sprawling to the ground. The letter and photo scattered. He picked up the letter, mournfully smoothing out its creases. "Who told you to touch my things? Why were you rummaging through my mother's altar photo for no reason?" My mother let out a cold laugh. "Your mother's altar photo? You hid it behind my father's picture so your father-in-law would see all the dirty things you did. Aren't you ashamed?" My mother scrambled up, grabbed my father by the collar, and screamed, "What did you do to my daughter? Where did you hide my child?" I secretly entered their bedroom, retrieved the letter and photo I had hidden behind my paternal grandmother's altar photo, and pretended to drop them on the floor. When I emerged, I saw my father being choked by my mother, his face pale, gasping for air. I quickly pulled my mother away to rescue him. "Mom, Dad, what are you doing? We can talk about anything calmly." "Mom, what are you talking about children?" I feigned innocence, my face full of questions and worry, as if truly unaware of what was happening. But they paid no attention to me. My father kicked my mother away and rushed into the bedroom. My mother clutched her stomach, crying out in pain repeatedly. This time, it was my father's turn to storm out, also holding a photo and a letter. "Great, Bai Zuyao, you dared to secretly have an affair with another man and even conceived a love child. Luckily, I swapped the baby, otherwise, I would have been raising someone else's child for 20 years. That photo and letter seemed to be my mother's Achilles heel. Upon seeing her lifeline in my father's hand, she suddenly seemed re-energized. Her stomach no longer hurt, her waist no longer ached, her entire body was filled with strength. She immediately sprang up and lunged to snatch her lifeline from my father's hand. And so, the two of them descended into a brawl. I stood by, trying to intervene, but it was like pouring oil on a fire. "Mom, isn't Lily my biological sister? Dad, Lily looks exactly like the woman in the photo. Mom, that uncle in the letter looks so handsome. If that baby had been kept, she'd surely be prettier than me. Dad, I asked a lawyer, Lily definitely won't escape prison." My parents fought more and more fiercely, ending half an hour later with a slap that knocked my mother unconscious. I called an ambulance. Neighbors, hearing the commotion, gathered around like a festival crowd. My mother, covered in injuries, was carried away on a stretcher. My father's reputation was also ruined. Although he was also injured, the police finally arrived. After regaining consciousness, my mother continuously demanded that the police arrest my father, but as it was an internal family dispute, he ultimately only received administrative punishment, a 10-day detention. In truth, my mother looked miserable but only had superficial injuries. She was discharged from the hospital after 3 days. From that day on, no one dared to mention Lily again. My mother was utterly dejected and devastated. I, being very kind, advised her. "Mom, when Dad comes back, you should talk to him properly and find out where your real daughter is." I began to carefully attend to my mother, but no matter what, even though I was now her only remaining biological child, she showed no kindness towards me. Perhaps it was because half of my father's blood still flowed in my veins. Every day, she cursed my father's white moonlight, speaking only bitter words. She hated my father and extended that hatred to me, always looking at me with eyes full of resentment. Now, she no longer remembered Lily at all. 10 days later, my father, Mr. Joe, with a scraggly beard, furtively returned home. As soon as he arrived, my mother hurled the ashtray at him. This ashtray truly was a warrior, thrown countless times, even stained with blood, yet not a single chip. My father deftly dodged it again. These two didn't resemble a married couple of 20 years, but rather mortal enemies of 20 years. Each only wanted to skin the other alive. "Where is my daughter ultimately?" my mother screamed. My father gave a cold laugh. "Why should I tell you?" Seeing them about to argue again without getting to the point, I quickly interjected. "Dad, tell Mom. Why hide it after so many years? Besides, Lily is still in detention. Dad, tell Mom where her biological daughter is." Consider it a good deed for Lily. Think of it as accumulating merit. Those good deeds will surely be repaid to Lily. Who knows, maybe she'll even be declared innocent then? I spoke nonsense as if it were truth. Initially, Lily's situation was completely hopeless. Yet, simply by mentioning the karma they revered, my father seemed to awaken. That year, I left the baby at the Health Welfare Institute. I wasn't so cruel as to abandon her in the wilderness. I personally saw volunteers take the baby inside. She must still be alive. My mother finally got the answer she wanted and immediately headed straight to the Welfare Institute. My father clutched the photo tightly in his hand, saying nothing. After a long moment, he looked at this not too big, not too small house, then looked at me, Hua. I understood exactly what he wanted. "As long as you donate more, do more good deeds, Dad's Lily will definitely be safe and sound." He rarely looked at me so seriously. "Hua, I'm going to sell this house. You understand, don't you?" This was our family's only asset. Even though we were deeply in debt, my parents had never considered selling the house. Yet now, my father had decided to go all in, planning to sell the house for the daughter of his white moonlight, someone with whom he had no blood relation. A bitter taste filled my mouth. I had grown up in a far from normal family. I didn't know how parents in a truly happy and healthy family would treat their children, but I was certain they wouldn't sell the family's only refuge for an ambiguous, meaningless cause. I also looked at this house, where I had lived from childhood. To say I had no feelings for it would be a lie, but that emotion was fleeting. Immediately afterward, I remembered the years of oppression and exploitation I had endured within these walls. Instantly, my heart became as hard as steel. I nodded in agreement. "Dad, you know I care about Lily a lot too. As long as it can help Lily be safe and sound, selling the house is fine." He looked at my compliant demeanor, a flicker of guilt in his eyes and a strained smile on his lips. Hua, you're not a child anymore. It's time you found a man to marry." A girl growing up in a normal family would think her parents were worried about her future, but not me. I understood that this was a sign I was about to be drained of my last bit of value, used as a tool to acquire a bride price. Although I was used to this twisted kind of relationship, I couldn't help but feel uncomfortable. The fake expression on my face almost slipped, my body stiffened. Looking at the man I had called Dad for over 20 years, I suddenly felt utterly disgusted, even more disgusted than by everything I had endured before. But I forced down the urge to vomit, nodded in agreement, pretending to be utterly delighted. In my mind, I was silently calculating which flight ticket to buy to escape. After the house is sold, we'll donate to the rescue center. And Lily once said she wanted to buy some Brazilian turtles for mercy release. Those turtles are so pitiful. Dad plans to buy a few to release. Now, you're the only family I have left. He feigned emotion, sounding sincere. But after hearing what he planned to do, all the revulsion within me vanished, as if someone had handed me a pillow just as I was about to yawn. I looked at him, offering a smile so genuine I couldn't suppress it. And he, bolstered by my support, became even more convinced, immediately calling a real estate agent to sell the house. That evening, when my mother returned home in a cheerful mood, what awaited her was the news that the house had been sold. She went ballistic, but because it was a rush sale, my father had already met with the buyer and signed the contract. He had even sold it for 100 million VND approx. $14,000 USD, below market price, and the money had already been fully transferred. The house sold for 800 million VND, approx. $112,000 USD, and my mother shrieked, demanding my father give her 400 million VND. Initially, he intended to keep it all, not wanting to spend money on someone else's child. Finally, I advised him that he now had a lead on his biological daughter, and he should go find her immediately, without worrying about money. Only then did my father nod, quickly packing his belongings and leaving. Before he left, he praised me for doing well, his trust in me increasing a little more. The next day, the real estate agent and the buyer came to complete the title transfer procedures. On the third day, my father gave me 200 million VND approx. $28,000 USD, claiming it was for Lily's rescue group, which had just saved a truckload of meat dogs and now needed donations to treat them, and then efforts to find adoptive homes. Because large sums of money easily attract attention, but these people calling themselves dog rescuers were actually all actors. The same truckload of dogs was constantly being moved back, and forth it was an organized scam. Yet, they always managed to trick kind-hearted people into donating, earning a fortune every time. Of course, I wouldn't be foolish enough to fall for it. I called the police, reporting them for fraud and illegal fundraising. I even pinpointed their hiding place, added the police to their donation group, then immediately left the group, having achieved my goals and then retreating into anonymity. I believed they wouldn't be able to trick anyone else after this. The poor dogs in that truck would no longer have to act and could truly find loving homes. On the fourth day, my father and I moved to an old, cramped apartment in an old residential area. This became our temporary refuge. But the debt collectors, having heard that my father had sold the house, blocked our door, preventing him from leaving. He was timid and didn't dare go outside, merely letting the debt collectors pound on the door. Luckily, the walls around the house were embedded with shards of glass. Otherwise, they might have actually climbed in. My father and I lived in constant fear every day. By the sixth day, the food in the house had run out. My father racked his brain wondering what we would eat. He accepted going hungry rather than confronting the lone sharks. But very soon after, we were freed because the police cars arrived. The police dispersed the creditors and immediately arrested my father on charges of smuggling invasive alien species. Even so, he still didn't suspect me, because I had always been obedient and compliant, and now I was the only one he could rely on, so he was certain I wouldn't betray him. It wasn't until the interrogation that he learned I was the one who had called in the tip, directly to customs, ensuring that the 1,000 Brazilian red-eared slider turtles he imported could not be released into the environment to cause harm. He looked at me in disbelief. I gave him a faint smile. "I wouldn't do these illegal things for you, Dad. I know you plan to buy them for mercy release for your Lily, who blindly believes in karma and thinks it's a good deed." In the past, my parents indulged Lily, even joining her in mercy releasing mineral water. That's when I understood I was the only normal one left in the house. From childhood, I didn't understand that favoritism. Now I understood, but it no longer mattered. The fate between me and those two was over. My father seemed to have no more words for me, but just as he was being led away by the police, he turned back and said, "Mom and Dad didn't treat you well, but Lily. Your sister wasn't bad to you. She's just too kind. When she gets out of prison, remember to take care of her. A girl like her will have a very difficult life out there." Until the very last moment, the person he worried about most was Lily, someone with whom he shared no blood relation. She's kind. If she were kind, she wouldn't have disregarded human lives. If she had treated me well, she wouldn't have joined my parents in preventing me from going to university. Only if my head were completely damaged would I ever go back to help her. I took the 200 million VND approx. $28,000 USD I had secretly hidden and left the city where I had lived for over 20 years. I moved to a place where it was spring all year round. 3 years later, to retake my university entrance exams, I returned to the old city. Lily, knowing full well that pushing someone into the road could be fatal, still intentionally did it. Although the little girl was saved by me and didn't die, Lily still committed a crime. She was charged with attempted murder, and throughout the trial, she showed no remorse. Ultimately, the judge handed down a severe sentence, 10 years in prison. My father, for illegally importing 1,000 Brazilian red-eared slider turtles through foreign channels, was reported by me and investigated by customs. This species of turtle is an invasive alien species prohibited from import. He also, like Lily, showed no remorse, still mumbling about karma, and ultimately received a heavy sentence, 1 year and 6 months in prison. My mother, meanwhile, was still on her journey to find her biological daughter who had been swapped years ago. This time, my retake of the university entrance exam, from taking the test to score announcement to choosing my preferences, everything went smoothly, without any obstacles. I finally got into the university I had always dreamed of and subsequently settled and worked in that same city. For the first 20+ years of my life, I seemed to have experienced all the hardships a person could endure in a lifetime. So, when I left that distorted family, my life began to sail smoothly. Acquaintances around me would often remark, "She must have accumulated a lot of merit in her past life." But I would just smile and say, "There's no such thing as karma, it's all thanks to my own efforts."